really had a great lead block, a couple really, really good blocks on the inside. I think Jakeem really executed the play the way we like to execute it, kind of the little details we talk about it. And, I kind of had a front row seat where I was sitting at. It was coming right at me. And just, you can kind of see once Brandon got that kick out block, we had a nice seam in there. And then, really Jakeem did the rest by outrunning everybody. But really, really, really good job by the entire unit. And Jakeem really just putting the cherry on the sundae, if you will.
You've been a part of a game where there was one on each side. You could go for turn.
Unfortunately, I have. Yeah. So, riding the roller coaster. I think one other time here, if I'm not mistaken, one of the years up in Buffalo, if I'm not mistaken, Marcus Thigpen had a kickoff return for a touchdown. I think they returned a punt for a touchdown. I'm not sure exactly what year that was. You guys can look that up better than me. You guys have the info on you. But, yeah, I think that was one of those games as well where I think they had a punt and we had a kickoff. But, certainly rode the roller coaster a little bit there on Sunday for sure.
What went wrong in that one?
You know what? You could. It's one of those all of the aboves. A little bit of everything there. First of all, start with me. Not a great call, not a great kick, not great coverage, not great tackling. So kind of we'll go with letter E, all the above. Wasn't really a good by anybody in that regard. We got to be a lot better. That's one of the things we're going to improve on the most this week is just really our coverage. Something we take a lot of pride in, as you guys know. It was one of the things we were really, really good at last year, and that's got to carry over. We got to improve quickly in that area.
I've been wondering about Jason Saunders' kicks. A lot of them are falling short of the end zone. Is that by design?
And if you guys know that we've done that a lot here, based on both. I'm not worried about his leg strength even a little bit. So, sometimes it's by design, sometimes it's not by design. There's kickers who sometimes are trying to swing for the fence and kind of. It's like a golf swing, if you will. Sometimes you chunk the ball a little bit or cut underneath the ball or get a little too much. So it can be a combination of things.
There's a lot mentioned this offseason about the new kickoff rule. Did you feel like that had any impact on either of those touchdowns?
Well, I think it's a much more wide open play. So I definitely do. Number one, for the kickoff return team, it's much easier to identify the kick coverage and who you're blocking assignment-wise. With the old rules, you go 6x4, you could motion guys, you could move guys around, and occasionally it's it could get confusing for the return team if you didn't really practice, that particular week. If someone threw something new at you, a little bit of a curveball. So definitely, and I think I mentioned this already, it's a much more wide open play. When you don't have those, when you have those 8 players up, there's more spacing on the play. So again, a guy like Jakeem, and for their guy, kudos to him. He made a big play too. So you see that more of a wide open play. You got to be able to tackle in the open field a little bit better, and there's not those wedge blockers, and so it's a more, like I said, some people have likened it to a punt return. I guess I could see that a little bit, but I just look at it as a much more wide open kick return play, and so I think you might see some. I know the kick return average was up in week 1 and higher than it's been, and kind of see if that carries through the rest of the year. But overall. As I mentioned, I think we talked about this a couple weeks ago. I really believe in my heart that over the course of the year, you'll see the touchback percentage go down a little bit. You'll see more returns. I think it's a safer play and a more wide open play.
Balance, how would you say your special teams performed on Sunday?
Like I said before, a little bit of a roller coaster. Obviously, we had a huge play. We had a game changer, but we let them kind of get back in it a little bit as well. But you kind of look at it overall. There were some things you're pleased with. It's kind of like every game. Some things you're happy with. Sometimes things you got to improve on. We can't let up a big play. That's unacceptable. So, in that regard, we got to certainly manage that a lot better. But there were some things I was very happy with, and it's kind of like every game for me, though. I think there's always going to be some things that you're looking to improve on, no question, especially this part of the year. But on the same flip side of the coin, we had a big kickoff return for a touchdown. We recovered an onside kick at the end of the game with our hands team. We really handled the punt. They put 11 man up at the end of the game. We handled that very well. So situationally, I was very happy with that part of it, and so I thought mentally we did a really good job of just our execution, our tackling, our coverage needs to be a little bit better.
Riz, that during the off-season, a lot of the moves were about helping culture and getting football guys in and so forth. Has that bled down into special teams, and if so, how?
I think first off, when you go back to the offseason, we looked at kind of where we were, special teams unit, and one of the priorities is getting a guy like Walt Aikens signed, getting him done. But there were some guys we couldn't get signed back for whatever reason. I'm not going to get into that right now. So there's some new bodies, there's some new faces, there's some of those guys. But that's really, Armando, it's a challenge every year for the special teams coach. every year, regardless of what happens, there's going to be change at the bottom of the roster. And that's, let's be honest, that's the players that I'm dealing with. That's no secret. It's the bottom of the roster, people that I have to do a great job, and we have to do as a special team staff of managing those guys. And that's going to be kind of a year, every year I've been here, this is year 10 for me. There hasn't been a year where there hasn't been some type of switch, some year more than others. Yeah, there might be 4 or 5 guys in one year, it might be 7 or 8 another year. So yeah, it's always going to affect me, and that's one of the biggest things that I'm challenged with is, making sure that group is no matter who it is, we're ready to play. And I felt like in some ways we were on Sunday, and other ways, like the big play, we weren't. But it's certainly a challenge, there's no doubt.
When you make an addition like Bolden,
Yep.
who comes with a reputation as a really solid, good locker room guy, that's what does that mean to you?
Well, first of all, I thought it was a great addition. He's everything right now. I've only known him personally for a short amount of time here. I've always played against him and coached against him, I shouldn't say. I didn't play against him. That would have been ugly. I've coached against him, and so, I knew him as a player. Now I got to know the person a lot better. He's everything I expected, maybe a little bit more. Very well prepared, very mature, great locker room guy, great preparation in the meeting rooms. I mean, I made mention about him this morning in our special teams meeting. Here's a guy that was here for 4 days, not one mental mistake, was in the right place. We threw a lot at him. And all the terminology for him was different. Special teams is special teams. But all the lingo is different. His terminology, his alignments, his assignments, all that. He played a clean game, had a huge block on our big play. So I think he's a great role model for the guys that are maybe just getting here, or the new guys, or the rookies, or the young guys. This is a guy that I feel like the other guys could follow and look at him and the way he practices, the way he prepares, and the way he plays. So I think he was a great addition. And I think he kind of falls in line with what you're saying, the locker room, that type of guy. That's the type of guy that we're looking for around here for sure.
Yeah, he's here only, 4 days? Denny's been here 14 years. You haven't been here quite that long. But what's he like? What's his personality like? What's it to work with? Give us some insight.
Yeah, John Denny is a gosh, I have 2 daughters, and if my daughters marry a guy like John Denny someday, I'll be very, very happy. He's the kind of guy that he is A+ across the board, not only as a player. I forget about him as a player. As a person, he is a A++ guy. Off the field, he's a great human being. He's a person that's going to give you the shirt off his back, literally. He's a very religious guy. He's a great father. He's a great husband. He's just a tremendous role model as a person. And I have nothing but everything I could say positive about him is everything's going to be above board. That guy is great. Not only that, now as a player, we're talking about preparation, his off season, all of that stuff. I always use him when the younger guys come in. I watch what this guy does. Look how this guy trains. Watch how this guy prepares. And even though he's a long snapper, forget about what in between the lines. Watch everything he does outside the lines, and that's what a professional football player, in my opinion, he is kind of the I keep using that term today, role model. He's kind of that role model of a football player, and so. It's not a surprise to me that he's lasted this long. He's in great shape. We've talked about this before. He's in phenomenal physical condition. Although he's going on 40, he's probably as good a shape as anybody on this team. And so that's why he's been able to last. Obviously, the position helps as well. I get it, but certainly not a surprise to me.
If he snaps the ball 100 times, how many are going to be good? Perfect snaps.
He's probably grading out at about an A, So I would say, 90 out of 100 or more. He's, field goal snaps and punt snaps are obviously different. Great guy to talk about that is Matt Hawk. Matt Hawk's catching every snap that he throws back there, whether it's a punt or a field goal. Obviously, Matt's our holder, and so Matt's going to tell you that he really enjoys having him there for sure.
I was wondering, because you don't have depth at the specialist positions.
Yeah.
Do you take a survey at some point in August, say who's long snapped before, or who could kick in a pinch? How do you find the emergency guys?
That's a great question. We have ways to do that now. So we got a couple unique ways to do that. Obviously, we go around and we'll have a little bit of a foundation coming in. We know the player coming in if he had any background. If the player didn't have any background in college, and we'll go around, we start asking, about high school, and then sometimes we trick some guys into it too. So, for example, I may say something like, hey, I know your high school coach. He let me know you were a long snapper in high school. And the kid's like, my high school coach? How'd you know I snapped? And I didn't know his high school coach. So he would say, I can't believe you talked to Coach Smith. I didn't talk to Coach Smith, but I'm glad I know you long snap now. So now we'll start practicing that guy every day at long snapper. So there's a bunch of different ways to go about it. So, no, anyway, so I'm joking, but I'm not joking. So myself and Marwan, we go through the roster and we find out, background guys on really their whole life. Have they been a returner? Have they been a snapper? Have they been a holder? Have they been a kicker? Have they been a punter? Because, again, with 46 guys on the sideline, as was the case on Sunday, you never know when that situation is going to present itself, and you got to have options. And there's been games. I know my former assistant, Dave Phipp, up in Philadelphia, he had a game a couple of years ago where they were down to their third snapper. Their snapper got hurt, and the guy that went in for him got hurt, and they were down to the third guy. So, crazy situation. So you got to be prepared for all these scenarios. And so we kind of have a pretty good baseline on everybody and what they've done. And at any point,
how many snaps did Durham might have taken since he's been here?
He's taken more on one-on-one team reps, not a lot. Because you guys know we don't get a lot of team reps to begin with, and so the ones that we're making. So we'll throw our guys in there, whether it's been Mike Hull, Marquise Gray. Mike Hull and Marquise Gray were two of our snappers. So obviously, actually going into last week, Marquise Gray was really our backup snapper.
Durham's like fourth string on.
So Durham, yeah. If you asked me this question in preseason, he would have been fourth. That's correct. That is absolutely correct. Before,
I'm
sorry?
Like I would say Sue as the emergency kicker is a little surprising, even though we know that he's done it in Detroit. But have you ever come across some random thing like Rashad Jones knows how to punt or anything like that?
No, you know what? Everybody says they're a kicker. Everyone likes to. I could kick because they want to score points. So then we'll line guys up and say, okay, let's see what you got. And it's ugly. It's disgusting. As a special teams coach, it's gross. Yeah, it's bad. It's bad. It's bad. It's bad. Bad. It's bad.
What's one that was good that you were like, oh wow, this guy can do this thing?
Believe it or not, we've had some guys that are smaller guys, like small receivers, that have been able to snap, like they played quarterback before. A lot of times if you can throw the ball pretty well, you can snap pretty well. So there's some little guys that we found throughout the years that have been some pretty good snappers. There's been a number of guys that have been some smaller guys. But again, then you go into a lot of the offensive linemen have played center throughout the years. Those guys can snap. A couple of guys on our roster can short snap. So there's been some guys that throughout the years, whether it be kick, punt, snap, but we got to know. We got to have those plans, and as you said before, you never know what's going to happen. So
Taylor was your backup, wasn't it?
Jason Taylor was. I'll give you a great story. I'm going to give you a great backup snapper story. So here he goes. One of my favorite stories since I've been here. So we had a punter here my first year, second year, an Australian guy that came in for camp. His name was Jai Bond. I don't know if you guys remember Jai Bond. So Jai Bond was a punter that we had here in the preseason. So Jai goes in, and just like we would do it once in a while, every once in a while we'll bring our backup snapper in. So we bring up Jason Taylor. So this was year 2 for me, Jason Taylor. So this is 2010, if I'm not mistaken. So Jason Taylor, we said, JT, take this last one, take this one. So Jai Bond, growing up in Australia, he doesn't know Jason Taylor from Lawrence Taylor, okay? So he's back there, and Jason Taylor snaps one. He snaps the ball a little bit high, and Jai kind of scrambles and punts it off, and the punt period's over. Well, the punt period's over, and everybody's walking off the field. And Jai Bond goes, hey, 99. And Jason Taylor's walking off the field, and he's like kind of thinking to himself, I know this guy didn't say that. So he's walking out. They're about 20 yards away. He goes, I said, hey, 99. And Jason Taylor looks over. He goes, yeah, that snap was a little bit up here. And Jason Taylor goes, hey, buddy, why don't you do me a favor and just kick the effing ball? Don't worry about me. So we had to kind of bring Jai over to the side, kind of explain to him what, who he was dealing with at that point. And of course, to this day, JT and I actually laugh about it. I saw him last night at my son's JV game. Our sons play together, play football. So every once in a while, we joke around about that one. That's always a good one, though. Hey, 99. So that's my good backup snapper story. I thought you guys would enjoy that one. So
quickly, sorry about how many guys on this roster could do it if called upon?
We have, again, we always got to have at least 3. As a backup emergency. Right now, I'd say there's 4 guys on our team that could snap if it had to an emergency situation. That's not including Hull and Gray. Hull and Gray, yeah.
I'm not going to be able to top that, but you had McCain and T.J. McDonald play every snap on defense and then 12 and 11 snaps on special teams. Yep. Is that the higher end of the usage you want to have?
Yeah, well, you know what? You look at those snaps, I want to say 5 of them were field goal block, which is a defensive play for us. And then we had another defensive stay on our punt return. We kept the defense out. We only brought the returner in and kept the defense out. So I think that was half of their snaps. But you know what? As always here, we're going to have starting players. We're going to have roles, especially defensive players. That's been the case, as you guys know, throughout. The team we're playing this week, the Jets do a lot of that. They got a lot of defensive players that play on one or two teams. Bobby's been a starter here before, and he's always been on a couple things. TJ did the same thing when he was in the Rams. So some of the jobs they've done before and are used to, they're always going to be usually involved in at least one team. And the field goal block is kind of a separate unit. So appreciate it, guys. Thank you.
To just sort of, not just the breaks, but even sort of, we had like some short drives and some long drives. It's kind of a weird deal. So, but I didn't really feel like there was any issue. It was pretty clean.
All men wound up playing on the first series that Tennessee had. Was that planned if it was going to be a longer series, or that's just the way?
Nope, it's just the way it went.
So the media told me.
Oh, the media. The media's always right.
Yeah, Robert Quinn and Cam Wake were going to be on the field and going after quarterbacks together and stuff like that. How often did that really happen?
They were on the field together a pretty good amount, I think. I couldn't give you hard numbers on that, but really, I think in terms of our rush numbers, really didn't think we had much of an opportunity to rush. If you really look at true drop back passing game, I thought one of the areas that we have to get better at was our first and second down defense. Really, our second down defense. We made some plays on first down and kind of got behind the chains, and then we were kind of not as good on second down, and so we didn't have a third and longer than 6 until the fourth quarter. So it's hard. The ball's coming out quick when you're in 3rd and 2, 3rd and 4, 3rd and 3, 3rd and 4, 3rd and, we were always on shorter down distance. I'm pretty sure we had our first was a 3rd and 9 almost in the fourth quarter late in the game. So the first 6 to 8 third downs we had were all sort of 6 or less yards to go. So it was, they weren't giving us opportunities, but that's our fault. It's not up to them to give us opportunities. So, we have to do a better job on the early downs to put us in those situations, so, it wasn't really till towards the end of the game when we got a little bit of a lead and had a chance to, there was true, kind of knew his drop back passing game was coming out. But, before that it was screens, quick game, balls out quick, boots, so I just felt like we just didn't have really an opportunity to truly kind of pin our ears back and rush. So, those guys were on the field together and we were rolling our groups and trying to get into some of that. But, you limit yourself to in third down. Defense is what you can do when you're kind of behind the sticks a little bit.
Optimally, 3rd and long, those are the 2 guys you want in there?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
What do you like best about what your defense did? Anything stand out? Any unit or any?
Well, I think, bless you. I think probably the biggest contributing factors to us winning the game were obviously the takeaways. Number one, obviously something that we've been emphasizing and having the 3 picks and kind of timely interceptions, a couple of them kind of after those breaks, kind of jump-started us a little bit to get back into some things. And not a total lack of, but a somewhat, I probably would say the second factor is a lack of explosive plays against us. By our test, we only had 5 what we consider truly explosive plays, and really nothing overhead. We had the one, the tight end kind of sneak route out the backside on us. So limiting explosive plays and then obviously getting the 3 takeaways was huge. So I was happy with those things. We didn't really have any balls go over our head in the passing game. And again, obviously, point of emphasis this year in terms of takeaways. So I think in terms of just on the field stuff, those were 2 kind of critical factors for us. And then, I'm sure it's probably been said by a lot of people this week. The resiliency and sort of mental toughness those guys showed was awesome. Every time we're in the locker room, it just didn't feel like there was any panic or anything worrying or just anything. Everyone was really relaxed, and when it was time to hit back on the field, they just mounted up and went back out there. And so for that second one to come, sometimes that can be kind of demoralizing. And I did think we got a little sloppy after that second break. That's where kind of a lot of our missed tackles came and some of the stuff. We got a little looser in the run game, but I think that was just a hard, mentally, tough game to go through, and they showed a lot of resiliency, battling through a 7-hour game.
What's your definition of explosive plays? You said there are 5. Do you have a number? I know past regimes have used 17 yards.
Yeah, usually any run over 12 for us. That's it's maybe a little bit stingy for us, but any runs over 12, we had like the 26-yard run that busted out late on us, and it passes over 18, so kind of in that realm. So everyone has kind of their own definition, but usually right around there. You know what I mean? So.
How would you rate Minka's play in his first regular season game for you?
Solid. Made some plays, left some plays on the field. Love to see him finish that game off with a pick. Obviously, had a couple other things, and again, a lot of times with him or just any of those younger guys that are playing for us, there's just some stuff that they haven't seen. But obviously made a huge play for us to go on. That's a great play for him to push through on the 4th down play, and had a couple other stops before that. So again, and not, a lot of times in that role, with him playing inside a little bit more, and then the nickel role, like you didn't really notice him on a lot of stuff, which is good. He wasn't giving up plays, he wasn't targeted, he didn't miss a lot of stuff. So made the plays that came to him, made a couple of really good plays, and like I said, left a couple on the field that really could have solidified it, an even better day for him. So he's just, I think the more that he plays and the more he sees some things that he just hasn't seen before, and he just keeps growing through that. He's just going to keep getting better and better.
Matt, what have you learned about Akeem Spence since he's been here?
What I learned about him, like as a person or in general? Akeem Spence, he's as a person, he's very a gregarious kid. He's very outgoing, very personable, always a smile on his face, very happy, loves being part of the team, loves playing ball. So that's just fun to be around. Obviously, having a history with Chris, as a position coach, kind of has a good understanding. I think he's a good conveyor of the message. He has a good understanding of what Chris wants from a technique standpoint and how we're trying to play some things up front. And so he's done that before. He's obviously had a history, in that scheme. So, sort of for him to help some of those other guys out in terms of trying to help get them caught up to speed on what we're looking for. So he does a good job with that, sort of like doubling down on the message and having been through it for a season before this, he's kind of probably more ahead from a technique standpoint, just because he's been, repping it and practicing it and training in that system for a year. So he helps a lot with the other guys and stuff, but he's got a big personality, kind of thing. Pretty much most of the people in the building kind of took to him, instantly, and he's always fun to be around. I like being out at practice with him. He loves playing ball, so it doesn't matter whether it's slogging through the heat at a practice or in game day. He's always up and energized, and he's a good personality to have with the team.
Vrabel had some words for Andre Branch. Did you have any issues with that hit?
No. We just try to coach our guys on what the league tells us. I don't know. There wasn't a flag on any of those plays, and so I can't respond to what Coach Vrabel's thoughts are.
Do you take personally when teams or other coaches might question?
No. Nope. I don't take anything personally.
Is it a pride that this team plays clean though for you?
Yeah, like I said, that's not. We try to coach within the rules. And we have constant dialogue with the NFL league office and what we're trying to tell. I have no problem with it. Anyone wants to question my coaching style and my coaching abilities or techniques, like I'm an open book, and I'll tell you exactly what we're telling those guys. And so I don't see that at all. Again, it's a hard game to play. It's a hard game to officiate. A lot of stuff's happening fast, and the hits that have been questioned, neither one of them were flagged. So I can just go off that, and if they change that and want to come back to us and tell us, hey, this is not something that we're looking for, then we'll adjust what we're telling our guys to do.
How do you understand how do you understand the NFL rule on the RPOs with the quarterbacks?
Yeah, my understanding is that if the quarterback carries out a fake or continues the action of running, that he's eligible to be contacted, that he's still in a running mode. If he shows his hands or steps back away from things, then he's not eligible to be contacted. So that's what we teach our guys. If you're defending RPO-type games, there's always somebody that's on the dive and on the quarterback or whatever the other elements of the options are there. So, again, that's my understanding until someone tells me otherwise. That's how we're going to keep coaching our guys.
So you mentioned the resiliency of coming back after that couple of long breaks. what players are making sure that everybody does that, gets together, stays together, plays together?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, like it was. I know it was talked about. I think maybe Ryan talked about it. It was kind of there was two different sort of ways the breaks approached us. You know, that first one came, and it was sort of like they just kept pushing it back. So we were kind of almost always on call waiting. We came in, they're like, hey, it's going to be half an hour, and everything gets passed, and then they come back and, oh, it's going to extend it out another 15 minutes, another half an hour. And so we were never, you know, like, it was kind of a weird deal. Everyone was kind of waiting. Every time we thought we were about to head back out, they'd come back in and say, no, we got to wait another however long the time break was. So that was a little different because we were a little bit kind of on edge. Everyone was kind of waiting. They thought we were getting back out there sooner than we did. And then the second one, they kind of told us right away, like, hey, this is going to be a stretch here. They told us it was going to be possibly up to a couple hours. And so, you know, at that point, it was just like, you know, you didn't want to keep guys on edge for another 2 hours, like locked in. So we kind of just let them do their own thing. But every time I came back, you know, we have our own locker room, you know, that we were kind of doing some things and making sure we were on top of what we wanted to adjust to. And then every time we came back out, man, those guys were just kind of hanging out together, which was cool to see. And there was just like a very, like, I was at ease. Like, I didn't feel any anxiety. I didn't feel anything else. I wouldn't say there was like one person calling guys up or anything like that. And so, you know, I think it kind of became a point of pride, just that, like, you know, again, as that thing extended and went on, it was like, hey, when we get back out there, like, this is what we have to do, type of thing. So it was just kind of, I wouldn't say, like, I didn't necessarily say there was like one guy that was like rallying the troops per se, but it was just a really collectively, like, there was no panic, there was no anxiety. It was like, all right, hey, this is what they're telling us that we have to do to win the game today. That's what we're going to go through, and we all left the locker room together and got it done.
I got just one. Feeling better today.
Thank you. I'm glad to hear that.
How does Minka's personality, demeanor, and maturity align with the idea that he'll be playing in front of many family and friends going home this week?
Oh, well, I think he had a lot of family and friends down here last week too. So, you know, I don't think he thinks about any of that stuff. I mean, he's all about ball. So, you know, he's like that in practice. So on Sundays, I think he just applies what he does in practice to the field. So when it's time to play, I don't think he's thinking about who's in the stands or who's watching on TV or anything else except what I have to do to get my job done this week. So I don't think that even plays into anything that factors there.
Did the additional information you got on Darnold from Monday change your impression and game plan, or is it about what you expected?
Well, we waited. Obviously, really not necessarily just because of him, but just obviously, you know, there was sort of a lack of, you know, history between the coordinator and the quarterback altogether and doing all that thing. So we waited to really get into our game plan and stuff till a little bit later on Tuesday morning. We watched all the stuff, but we wanted to put that game into the cut-up. So it definitely, obviously, you know, factored into things. You know, you never know. Obviously, you watch preseason games. That's kind of a little different element. So, you know, I thought obviously he was, you know, had an impressive debut. And, you know, I've coached in Detroit. I've coached Monday Night Football games in Detroit. That's a loud stadium. It's a hard place to play. I know the game got kind of out of hand as it went on, but you know, I thought, you know, he showed a lot of poise handling that, being on the road. I mean, starting your game on, you know, obviously besides just being his debut on the road in a Monday Night Football setting in a place that I know personally is a pretty loud environment. So I thought he showed a lot of poise, and then obviously, especially after the first play, kind of coming back and didn't show like a lot of, you know, rattled or anything like that. So, you know, that's going to be an evolving picture for us just as we, you know, get to know him better. Obviously, having to face him a couple times a year, most likely for the next however long. So, but yeah, we obviously will use that game to factor into some of the things we're doing.
How difficult is it to prepare for a quarterback where there's just not that much film on him?
Yeah, I mean, you know, we have obviously like evaluated a lot of those guys through the draft and try to have some sense of what we feel like their strengths and weaknesses are. And, you know, some of it you're dealing with schematic issues in terms of just whoever's playing quarterback, what we're doing. And so, yeah, it's hard. And it's not to say it's hard, but yeah, there's just less information. So you're sort of projecting some things and trying to anticipate what, you know, what their answers are or what they're trying to do to help him out, you know, be successful. So, you know, we've put a lot of stuff together just, again, from college and what we had information there through the draft process and what we've seen on film in his preseason games and obviously their nights. So, obviously, you know, we play them again however many weeks down the road. You'll have a bigger sort of database of sort of information to work off of, but we got to work off what we got right now. So.
Do you talk to quarterbacks when they come through here?
In the draft process? Some. Depends. Not, I don't make a point of it. For like me personally, I'm usually pretty busy, but sometimes I mess around with them a little bit, depending. Yeah, we'll see. Usually I talk trash to them.
Torrey getting 5 snaps at corner last week, was someone hurt, or did you just want to give him opportunities in a regular season game at corner?
Yeah, that was not an injury factor. We just, again, at some point down the road in this season, there's a lot of guys are going to have to play football for us. So, when you have an opportunity to try to get some of those guys some work and some real game action, and what we did, we actually moved Minka back to safety to get him some extra work there, and bumped Bobby to nickel. So just like guys that we've been working guys in a certain spot, so now we can start playing around with maybe making sure those guys are still getting some reps and some action at some other spots we may utilize them at. So, we had a little bit of a lead. Not that the game was in hand, but we just felt like, hey, this is a good opportunity to maybe get a look at some of those guys and give them some real live action. You can't simulate that in practice or anything. So it was just a good opportunity for Tor to get some real game work for us.
Is there anybody that stood out to you that had a great game, after you watched the film from last week?
Rashad Jones. Stood out to you? Yeah. Obviously he made 2 great plays and made a lot. He does a lot for us. He was kind of back in midseason form. So, I thought Bobby played pretty well for us too. Again, kind of under the radar a little bit. Didn't make a lot of big plays per se, or have a lot of stuff happen. Had that huge breakup for us on the goal line on the play or two before the 4th down play down there. So that's a huge play. Saved me. We had a little bit of a scheme flaw there that he kind of covered up for. So he kind of did some things like that maybe didn't totally go recognized, but Bobby played really well for us. Obviously Rashad made some impact plays. I thought Kiko was flying around. Obviously had the pick, but made a lot of other plays there too. So, I thought that was a pretty steady game. But we were, I'll be honest with you, again, to be Debbie Downer, we were sloppy. I thought we were just sloppy. I think I was very proud of the resiliency and the toughness and stuff they show, but we left some stuff on the field that we can't leave on the field if we want to continue to win ball games. So, that was kind of one of the themes for this week, is there's some stuff that we have to tighten up. There's some guys that play well, but even the guys that played well, we just got loose on a couple things and stuff that wasn't exposed necessarily in the outcome of the game or things that happened. But again, as you move forward through a season, we can't win ball games all the time doing some of the things that we did. So we've got to tighten up the sloppiness and really detail out some of the things that again, you guys may not have noticed or, maybe didn't really impact this game, but they will impact future games. So I think everybody has a lot of work to do.
Thank you.
Thanks, man.
All right, guys.
Appreciate it.